Hey guys, welcome to LA Love Creative, and today we're talking about the Sigma 135 Art lens for E-mount cameras, review this lens, and give my initial thoughts on it. I'm in the need of a good portrait lens for my Sony cameras, and I've been looking at the bokeh 135 or the Sigma 135. So getting my hands on the Sigma gave me a great chance to mess around with that lens on a fashion shoot and also on a product and fashion shoot. This is not a comprehensive review. If you watched my channel before, you know that I don't really do those types of videos. There's a lot of people on YouTube that do those way better than I do. But I thought I'd give my opinion on this lens and tell you if you should buy one if you're in the need of a good 135mm. Now, what I really liked about the Sigma 135 was the image quality. The Sigma 135, they are professional grade cinema and photography lenses. The Sigma 135 has a beautiful bokeh. We're just gonna go with bokeh, whatever. The Sigma 134 has beautiful bokeh. It is not as smooth as the G Master, and the shape is not the same or anything like that, but I find that the Sigma bokeh is really nice. Also, with the image quality of this Sigma, I find it very, very sharp. It is a sharp lens. Sigma does a really good job making quality optics. Color contrast on this lens, I love the way this lens handles colors, and it handles sharpness and handles detail. One of the things I really like about Sigma is the build quality. This lens is a tank. And one of the things I like about the Sigma 135 is also a thing I don't like about the Sigma 135. This lens is so heavy. It is a very heavy lens, particularly trying to get the Sigma 135 because I was thinking with the Sony crop mode on my camera, I could get a little bit more of a 200mm or something like that when I crop using that lens. Thought it would be a little bit more lighter than a traditional 70 to 200 Sony f4 or f2.8 or something like that. However, I have found that the bokeh 135, when I have held that lens, is significantly lighter than both of these lenses. When it comes to photography, I think the Sigma 135 really shines. I think it can compete with a lot of the high quality Sony lenses. I think the autofocus works really, really well. I think the image that comes out is light years ahead a lot of other lenses. I think for a photographer's standpoint, the 135, if you can get over the fact that it's heavy, the image and the autofocus works great. The Sigma in video is not terrible by any means. I see a lot of things on the internet where, they're like, oh, the Sigma is so slow when it autofocus. I still find that the Sigma was autofocusing pretty good with my low expectations. I had no expectations. I thought it was just gonna suck. And then I started using it and I was like, oh, you don't suck. Just sometimes you suck, but not all the time. It's a third-party lens, so you're gonna be in a situation where you kind of know it's gonna be slower, but for the most part, it would catch the face. It just took multiple tries to catch the face, to do the face tracking, to do stuff like that. So I would say if you're shooting something like a wedding, if you're shooting something like a live event, you could not really rely on the autofocus on the Sigma 135. But if you're in a controlled environment and you really want to use the autofocus, or if you're doing something like an interview with someone, I think the Sigma 135 would work really well in those situations. One of the things I do like about the Sigma though is the focus ring. The focus ring on the 135 is very smooth and reminds me more of a lens that's made for video. When you're racking focus, it feels smooth. You can rack focus easier than a lot of the electronic focusing systems on the Sony lenses. You'll find yourself just really, really, really loving the fact that the focus ring is smooth and just feels right. Now, would I get a 135 Sigma? I personally am either gonna just go with a Sony 70-200 f2.8 or f4, or I might get the Bodice 135. Now I plan on doing a video on the Bodice 135mm if I ever get my hands on one, just because I find it's more lighter and it also has optical steady shot, which this lens, the 135, does not have stabilization. And that's a big deal. It's something that when you're shooting 135 and you're hand holding, it's very shaky. Just to have an extra boost when it comes to stabilization would really help the 135. Now that isn't to say that the Sigma 135 isn't a good lens, I just don't know if it's right for me. That's all I have to say today about this Sigma 135. Let me know if you have any questions regarding the lens or anything regarding photography or videography, and I will see you next time. See you later.